had something to say. I want to know how come the fascist pigs have been seeding the clouds.
Right, the last hour
I've seen the airplanes going over twice with all the smoke coming out of them seeding the clouds, and I want to know, why that stuff is going down, man, and why doesn't the media report that stuff to the people, man?
Project Cyrus, 1947, was the first attempt to modify a hurricane. It was a collaboration of the General Electric Corporation, the U.S. Army Signal Corps, the Office of Naval Research, and the U.S. Air Force. An airplane flew along the rain bands of a hurricane and dropped nearly 36 kilograms of crushed dry ice into the clouds. The crew reported pronounced modifications of the cloud deck seeded. Next, the hurricane changed direction to make landfall near Savannah, Georgia. The public blamed the seeding and claimed that the reversal had been caused by human intervention. The first seeding experiment since the Cyrus disaster in the U.S. was attempted on September 16, 1961, into Hurricane Esther by the NHRP and the United States Navy aircraft. 8 cylinders of silver iodide were dropped into Esther's eye wall, and winds were recorded as weakening by 10%. The seedings into Hurricane Esther led to the establishment of Project Storm Fury in 1962.
Project Storm Fury, a joint effort of NOAA, the Navy, and the Air Force, is designed to try to find one.
Scientists working on the project were convinced that they could reduce hurricane devastation using a process called cloud seeding, by spraying the thunderclouds inside the hurricane with a chemical called silver iodide.
The seeding planes fly across the eye and into these clouds, seeding the supercooled water droplets from the belt of maximum winds outwards. The silver iodide acts to transform the supercooled water droplets into ice crystals, upsetting the delicate heat balance of the storm.
As the silver iodide turns the supercooled water into ice, the heat released during this process causes the seeded clouds to grow and develop into a new outer eye wall.
And the idea was that outer one would contract in and essentially squeeze off or strangulate the inner one. And as it does that, the hurricane weakens. So the theory is right. If you can make the outer part a little stronger, you make the very dangerous inner core. The eye wall is weakened.
The following is an excerpt from the American Meteorological Society meeting in 2010.
The group feels very strongly, and we think we'll demonstrate in this session, is that not only are aerosols a vital component of atmospheric processes, and they play roles in larger scale processes, but they also affect cloud microphysics and dynamics, and that aerosols affect the cloud microphysics and dynamics in a very fundamental way, a very important way. It turns out that some of our modeling results in HAMP are quite surprising in that regard, and that under certain circumstances, carbon black may actually increase hurricane intensity. And I'll let Professor Rosenfeld tell you more about that. So that this idea of looking at small CC and aerosols, we've suspected for years that, that they have an impact on on small cloud systems or individual clouds. This is some work that Rosenfeld published just a couple of years ago, and this explains an apparent dichotomy in the role of aerosols. In some cases, there's a chain of events in which aerosols can lead to floods. There are other situations in which they could actually decrease precipitation. So both of these independent results suggested that aerosols could play a very important role in both the weakening of Hurricane Katrina. So both of these independent results suggested that aerosols could play a very important role in both the weakening of Hurricane Katrina.
Wait a minute now, what did Golden almost say? Aerosols played a very important role in both weakening and intensifying Hurricane Katrina.
We've never seen anything like this.
Nope.
The waves are triple the size of a human being.
When the storm hit, President Obama got to look like a leader. He was being a leader. Meanwhile, Governor Romney had to go back to being a private citizen.
Has created weather tampering techniques so that the, quote, New World Order will be able to starve millions of Americans
worldwide,
and to control the rest.
Yes, sir, and that's my belief. As bizarre as that sounds, if somebody had told me that that equipment even existed 10 years ago, I would have thought they were nuts, sir. And at this point in time, we have all the documents to prove it. And if you think that 85 tornadoes takes place in the middle of our growing area by simultaneous accident, I'm sorry. With the equipment that's already set up internationally, and as bizarre as that is, it is proven and documented. We will supply you with those documents. As bizarre as that is, I would say that weather wars, and this is quoting actually Senator Claiborne Pell himself, that they are the greatest weapon ever created in the world, and that's the Senator's own statement. So yes, I do stand on that.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We shall propose further cooperative efforts between all the nations in weather prediction and eventually in weather control.
Kennedy was talking about weather control with confidence. In April of the previous year, the Tyro satellite had been launched from Cape Canaveral and equipped with solar power to send back images of cloud formations. the national press announced that Tyros, quote, opens up new vistas for weather forecasting and control, unquote.